Hello my fellow Frosties. In this video, I'm going to try and help you get your brand new Mage Tower Transmog with the Frost Mage. Getting straight into it, we will start with gear. Due to the scaled down item level, there are ways to enhance your gear outside of the Shadowlands. I will include the Wowhead article down below which goes into detail of past expansion gear that are slightly overscaled. While these extra min-max gear pieces, consumables or enchants might give you a slight edge, they are not necessary to complete the challenge. This is a screenshot from our mod Sankey successfully completing the challenge on a very old alt character. You'll not only see the low item level but also the mismatch of stats. I didn't personally go for anything min-max or try-hard here. I kept it in my current Mythic Plus setup. This is mainly due to the fact that most of you might not have access to any special gear, so I wanted to be as close to a blank canvas setup as I could. Some good trinkets from Shadowlands are generally the stat giver trinkets. Forbidden Necromantic Tome, Unbound Changeling, and Titanic Ocular Gland, for example. Notably, powerful trinkets from past expansions are Chipped Soul Prism or the infamous Unstable Arcano Crystal. As for consumables, you will pretty much want your usual Raid or Mythic Plus setup: Spectral Flask of Power, Potion of Spectral Intellect, Spiritual Healing Potion, Shadow Core Oil, Heavy Desolate Armor Kit, and then you want a Feast of Gluttonous Hedonism. You can use crit or haste food if you don't have the gold for the feasts. It has also been said that the unbridled fury pots are doing 3 times the damage than it should. Note, any of this can be hotfixed at any time, however you can use this pot instead. As for enchants, according to Preheat's Wowhead guide linked below, you want to take Celestial Guidance on your weapon, Fortified Leech on your cloak, Eternal Stats on your chest, Eternal Intellect on your braces, and then you can take either crit or haste on rings and gems. Next, let's cover talents. On tier 1, you can take Bone Chilling. You want your Auto Elemental for this fight. It can soak the Rune of Summoning mechanic, which can be extremely difficult to manage on your own. Make sure you keybind Move 2 to be able to move your Water Ellie efficiently. More on this in a bit. Tier 2, you want to take Shimmer. It's a lot better for gap creation. However, arguments can be made for Ice Flows. It might be easier for those of you who are struggling with their movement and kiting while also trying to cast. You can take what you prefer here. Tier 3, you can take Incanter's Flow. You are permanently kiting, so the uptime on Rune of Power will be low, especially when you get to those later stages of the fight. If you find you have a good uptime on Rune of Power, then of course you can take it. There has been reported success with both talents. I personally took Incanter's Flow. Tier 4, you can take Chain Reaction, which is completely passive, you don't need to track it. Tier 5, you can take Frigid Winds. Because the fight consists of permanently kiting, this passive slow really helps. Tier 6, you want to take Freezing Rain. You have limited time to cast on this fight, so the instant cast Blizzard is very strong. Tier 7, you can take Thermal Void. Some useful macros I would suggest having for this encounter are mouseover macros for your Blizzard and Pet Freeze. In the heat of the moment, when you're trying to kite everything and also deal with priority target mobs and mechanics, saving yourself the extra click to place the ability is invaluable. All of these are linked in the description below. Now let's go into detail about the encounter. In this scenario, you must thwart the twins. You will face off against the Mage Spear brothers, Karam and Reyest. This fight is pure kiting, with a couple of notable mechanics thrown in while doing this. This fight is very hectic, and there will be a lot going on at once. The idea is to kite everything, including Karam, in a circle around the main boss Reyest. If any of the ads or Karam reach you, you will take almost a one-shot worth of damage. Make sure to never let anything reach you. While kiting, you also need to deal with a mob that needs to be interrupted and nuked, and also soak a soak mechanic. Make sure you constantly control the mobs by having a Blizzard and Orb out on everything while kiting around in a circle. Remember your Cone of Cold, Frost Nova, and your Pet Freeze. These will help a lot when you need to cast to get priority mobs down, and also if the mobs get too close to you. The Fingers of Frost procs you gain from these orbs you can use on the priority targets throughout the encounter. The freezes from your pet or your Frost Nova can help a lot when you need to cast Frostbolt to fish for Brain Freeze or Fingers of Frost procs to nuke down those priority targets. Please note that if you kill Karam before Reyest will enrage and very quickly kill you as those Shadow Bolts will chunk you down. The first major mechanic you will have to deal with is the Hand from Beyond. This hand will spawn from phase 3 onwards and begin casting Grasp from Beyond. If this cast goes off, it's pretty much a one-shot. You want to counterspell the cast at the very last second. This is to ensure that your counterspell comes off cooldown in time for the next hand that will spawn. It also allows time for you to DPS it down. These mobs become priority targets. Make sure you kill them as fast as possible. After 5 seconds of being interrupted, they will begin casting again. You will not have enough interrupts to get them all, especially as new hands spawn throughout the encounter, so make sure you kill them. If a cast really is going off, you can ice block it to survive. The second major mechanic you will have to deal with is the Rune of Summoning. From phase 4 onwards, Reyes places a purpley rune on the ground randomly around the room. You must stand inside it and soak it to prevent an ad from spawning. If you do not soak it, it's pretty much a wipe. A Thing of Nightmare will spawn and kill you. Fortunately, a cheesy tip to deal with this mechanic is that you can actually send your water elemental to soak it for you. Sometimes RNG will not favour you and you can get some terrible rune spawns. Make sure you keybind move to and then you can safely soak the runes using your water elemental, removing some RNG from the fight. Make sure you're always sending the water elemental into the centre of the soak. The rune shrinks in size, so you want to make sure it fully stays in the soak by being in the centre. Now let's break the encounter down phase by phase. You'll start the encounter just kiting Karam. I like to put a blizzard down when I see him say "I obey" as a min-max tip. When he reaches around 33%, you will then swap to the main boss Reyes. He will cast Shadow Bolt at you. Do not interrupt it as you want to keep the boss in the centre of the room. Make sure you're using Ice Barrier on cooldown to conserve as much health as possible. Pop Mirror Image on cooldown when this boss is active, just to take the least damage possible. This phase lasts 30 seconds. It's considered a burn phase as this is the only time in the encounter where you have the least going on mechanically and can fully focus on your damage. You can Icy Veins here and Pot. This is also potentially a good time to hero, although I tend to hero in the last phase. As I said, this is the only time in the encounter where you can get the most damage out due to having no mechanics to deal with other than some small ads. After 30 seconds, Reyes goes immune and Karam begins chasing you once again. Resume the kiting pattern from phase 1. There will also be a new mechanic to deal with in this phase onwards called the Hand from Beyond. It will begin casting Grasp from Beyond. Make sure you interrupt this cast as late as possible to ensure your counterspell is back off cooldown for the next hand spawn. It also allows you time to DPS it down, as you need to nuke these ads. They will begin recasting and you will not have enough interrupts to get them all. You can very quickly become overrun, especially when more spawn throughout the fight. If this cast goes off, it will kill you. You can ice block it to survive if you really can't interrupt. Some min-max tips here for dealing with the hands is you can route the mobs chasing you, including the boss Karam, to allow you to cast Frostbolt on the hands and fish for procs. Karam will phase once again at around 33% health. Reyes becomes attackable once again, so make sure you use Ice Barrier on cooldown to absorb those casts. Remember to use Mirror Image if available also. Reyes will now use the ability Rune of Summoning, which places a purpley rune on the ground that you need to stand inside for a few moments to soak. If it's not soaked, a Thing of Nightmare will spawn and this is basically a wipe as the ad will one-shot you. As mentioned previously, you can use your water elemental to soak these runes. Make sure you keybind move to and move your water elemental to stand in the centre of the soak. The rune will shrink, so having your Ellie in the middle ensures it soaks properly. After a short amount of time, Karam begins chasing you one last time. This is also when I usually hero and use all of my CDs. Both bosses are active in this final phase, and you want all of your damage to be put into Reyes. Karam would passively die with the orbs and blizzards permanently out on the mobs. If you kill Karam before Reyes, then Reyes will enrage and you will quickly die as those shadow bolts will chunk you down. In this final phase, you will have to deal with all mechanics while also kiting. Make sure your orbs and blizzards are permanently out on the mobs and kite around in a circle. You also need to make sure you are interrupting the Hand from Beyond at the end of the cast and also switching to them to kill them off quickly. These are priority targets. Rune of Summoning will also be going out, so make sure you are keeping an eye out and sending your water Ellie to soak these. You yourself can also soak, however if you get bad RNG on the spawns, it is safer for your water elemental to do so. If no hands are up, make sure your damage is going into Reyes, while also kiting Karam and the other mobs. When their health drops to 0, you win. This is a plot twist I'm sure none of you saw coming. I will let the rest of the video play and I'll catch you at the end. And that's the entire encounter. Give yourself some time with this one. There is a lot to manage, a lot to keep track of, and every mistake is a wipe. It will take you quite a few goes to get comfortable with this encounter. You need to learn how to kite while also juggling all of the mechanics. It can get frustrating at times for sure, but keep at it. Practice makes perfect. I hope this video helped you get that shiny transmog. Bye bye!